good morning, and welcome to Radio Doctor on Women Radio 91.7. Radio Doctor is Nigeria's first specialized health program where medical doctors consult for free and advise you on women radio. The program airs from 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, and it's a beautiful Thursday morning. This Thursday, the 23rd of July, 2026. Time check it is 7 minutes past 10 this beautiful Thursday. Today, we are discussing a topic that is generating a lot of interest around the world. Can type 2 diabetes be reversed? For years, many people believe that once you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you would be on medication for life. But today we know much more. Research has shown that in some people, significant lifestyle changes can dramatically improve blood sugar control and in some cases lead to diabetes remission. But what does that really mean? Does it mean diabetes disappears forever? Can exercise replace medication? Is weight loss the secret? And what practical changes can ordinary Nigerians make to improve their health? Joining us today is Dr. Orlu, who will help us separate facts from myths and explain how lifestyle changes can become powerful tools in diabetes treatment. Doctor, welcome to Radio Doctor.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here today. Please, what's your name?
Oh, my name is Hassan Imatullah. You can call me Nima.
Okay, nice to meet you, Nima. I'm Dr. Akpewe Ogene Eloho Olu. I consult with the teledoc platform, and I'm based in Port Harcourt. I'm a family physician and board certified lifestyle medicine physician.
Okay, doctor. The phone lines will be open shortly for you, our listeners, to ask your questions. But before then, the time is 9 minutes past 10. This is Radio Doctor on Women Radio 91.7. The doctor's details will be shared at the end of the program. So, doctor, what is type 2 diabetes?
Okay, so by now I'm sure we all know, even if we don't know, we know there's something related to insulin with diabetes. When you hear diabetes, the next thing you hear is insulin. So diabetes is an illness. It's a defining disease of the 21st century. So what it means is that it's really rampant in the 21st century more than ever. It's a disease in which there is a problem with glucose metabolism. So glucose is the sugar we take, and we also have the body producing its own glucose. But the thing with diabetes is it doesn't just affect only the glucose, it affects all other classes of food. So there's a hormone called insulin, which we all produce. If you don't have diabetes, you produce insulin. So in diabetes, that hormone that produces insulin is the organ that produces the insulin is faulty. That organ is the pancreas. So the pancreas is faulty, and then it's not producing enough insulin. Insulin is what makes glucose available for the tissues and organs in the body to utilize. So the difference between somebody that has diabetes and the person that doesn't have is the person that doesn't have has insulin sending glucose into the tissues for use, while the person that has diabetes has reduced or no insulin, and that sugar, instead of going into the tissues to be used, remains in the blood. That's what causes all the symptoms and signs that we experience, or those with diabetes experience. That's why if you check the sugar level, they'll tell you it's high, because instead of the sugar to be in the tissues where it will be used, it's in the blood. It can't be moved into the tissues. So we have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1, type 1 is called an autoimmune disease in which, for some reason, the body produces cells that go and destroy those that produce the insulin. So the exact cause of type 1 diabetes has not been known. But we know that it happens in younger people. So when you have children and even young adults with some certain symptoms of diabetes, we need to be sure which type of diabetes it is, whether it's type 1 or type 2, because they are two entirely different illnesses. Even though they have the same symptoms, they are two entirely different illnesses because their treatment differs. Though the treatments have some similarities, but they mostly differ. So in type 1 diabetes, we talk about absolute insulin deficiency. There is no insulin at all. So patients with type 1 diabetes are going to require insulin for life. It's very sad, it's very unfortunate, but that is what it is. While in type 2 diabetes, we have majority of the cells producing insulin are already dead. So most times before, studies used to say that type 2 diabetes at some point will require insulin. That was what we were taught in medical school, that type 2, because most people believe that as at the time of diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, the cells that produce insulin, half of them are already gone, which is the beta cells. So people believe that as at the time of diagnosis of type 2, 50% of beta cells are gone. So what the medications do is to flog the remaining 50%, produce insulin, so that it can be utilized in the body, right? So, when I say there are two entirely different illnesses, they are, of course, because we know that type 1 is absolute insulin deficiency. We cannot be talking about diabetes reversal, unfortunately, in type 1 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics are hooked on insulin for life. There are some studies going on now on how they can maybe make an artificial pancreas or transplant the beta cells and all. There are many of them that are still in research stages. But for now, what we know in medical practice globally, globally around the world is that there is no treatment for type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is where we can now talk about treatment and reversal. Reversal has a caveat because you can't bring one old mama that has had diabetes for 50 years and talk about diabetes reversal. Do you understand? Diabetes reversal has criteria. And one of the criteria for talking about diabetes reversal is it should be diagnosed within it can be reversed within 3 months, 3 to 6 months highest of diagnosis. So because you know that I said type 2 diabetics will at some point require insulin. So as the years go by, the beta cells keep declining and declining and declining and almost getting a picture of type 1, So that's why time of diagnosis matters when you're talking about diabetes reversal. So everybody is not a candidate. That's the first caveat. So that nobody will come and say, doctor said diabetes can be reversed, and they will bring somebody that lived with diabetes for 50 years and tell you ahead. So that's one. Then another thing we talk about, like I'm happy you mentioned remission. Remission means a disease has gone into hiding, in quotes. It is still present, but it is hiding. So some things will make it hide. That's what this whole lecture is going to be about. So those things that will make it hide are things that we put it in remission. So that remission is the hiding. And then if you continuously follow those healthy habits, it can remain in remission for the longest time. But somebody that breaks out of those healthy habits will most likely have their diabetes coming back, right? So should I pause for questions or should I keep talking?
Two questions actually before I mix it up. You mentioned reversal. Is it the same thing as cure? And you said diabetes has become more recent in the 21st century. So the question is, what has made it so common? Then again, what is the difference between Okay, you've answered this controlling diabetes and reversing diabetes. You've answered that. So, what has made diabetes so common in recent years? And is reversal the same thing as cure?
Okay. So it's very simple. What has made it common in the recent years is our lifestyle. It's our
Hmm.
lifestyle that has made it common in this 21st century. So in this 21st century, we have more sedentariness, meaning we are now very comfortable sitting down to do almost
Don't move
everything.
around.
Yes, I remember COVID made work at home a thing.
Hmm.
So people realized that they could even stay in their homes. And, I can stay in my house and order everything I need for the next 1 week. It's the same everywhere. You can order food.
Yes.
COVID just made it, made us realize that you didn't need to move out. So that is the same thing with what has happened in 21st century. There is more modernization of things. So before, I would like to put it this way: before, in the olden days, people used to go out to get food. So when I talk of go out, I talk of things like going to the farm to hunt, to harvest and all. So in those days, they expended energy to get energy. Now these days, we don't need to expend any energy to get energy. You can stay in
At
your
all.
house and order Domino's pizza. Oh, sorry, we're not supposed to call brand names. You can
Yes.
stay in your house and order pizza, chicken and chips, and all manners of food without expending any energy. And then maybe you finish eating, you go to sleep, no energy expended. So those are the things that fuel type 2 diabetes. Of course, we have what we call modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. But
Okay.
we're even seeing that now the modifiable risk factors are even overtaking the modifiable ones are taking over. Before,
Yes.
you would see diabetes in families. Now I tell my patients one person can start diabetes in a family. So it's gone are the days of people can be in denial a lot. When they check and the sugar is high, they'll tell you it's not in my family. Doctor, it can't be. I can't have diabetes. It's not in my family. And I tell them you can start it. One person can start it.
It all starts from you.
Yes, one person can start it. So we have what we call epigenetics. Epigenetics means rewriting your own genes. So somebody
Hmm.
may have, maybe the mother is diabetic, or even the mother and father are diabetic. But because that person knows the parents are diabetic and maybe knows what the parents suffer, the person might decide, I don't want to be diabetic. I will try my best. So the person starts to lead a healthy lifestyle. That's what we call epigenetics, rewriting the genes. So this rewriting the genes is where the lifestyle modifications, which is our topic of the day, comes in. So what's the second
Okay.
question?
You've answered both questions actually.
Okay.
So now, why is excess body fat, particularly around the abdomen, so strongly linked to type 2 diabetes?
Okay. So there's this thing we call insulin resistance.
Okay.
For people that are obese, they have higher levels of insulin. Remember, we said in diabetes, there is no insulin, right?
Yes.
So, but in obese individuals, they have a phase they call pre-diabetes, just before diabetes. So the insulin is so high because of the fat that is blocking it. The insulin is not making the sugar to get into the tissues the way it ought to be utilized. So we have a very high level of insulin. Before you know, the cells that are producing those insulin get tired. They are like, we are
Mm.
producing and producing and producing, and it's not being utilized. We are tired, and they just, So those excess layers of fat produce a state called insulin resistance. And before you know, insulin resistance is part of the pre-diabetes. Before you know, we'll tip over from pre-diabetes to diabetes. So that is how excess body fat is linked to diabetes. That's why with weight reduction, there's usually a dramatic improvement in diabetes and pre-diabetes. Because when you've reduced the amount of fat, belly fat, and fat generally around the body, you see that insulin will now be able to do its work very well. It will be able to push the glucose into the cells. But with all those fat around, it's difficult. It will just build up in the blood.
Okay, doctor, you said if a person loses weight, it would reduce the risk of pre-diabetes and diabetes.
Mhm.
Does it also reduce the blood sugar level?
So when you say it reduces pre-diabetes and diabetes, what you are saying is that there is a reduction in blood sugar.
Okay,
Semantics. So it's the same thing that you are
okay.
saying, yes. Because the difference between pre-diabetes and diabetes is just the number. So there's a cutoff point. Above that cutoff point is diabetes. Below that cutoff point, but higher than normal, is pre-diabetes. So in fact, studies are saying now that somebody that has pre-diabetes has diabetes
Okay.
because the damage is the same.
Oh,
It's just the value that will make doctors to say, okay, it's pre-diabetes, we will not give drug yet. Go and modify your lifestyle. But in reality, sugar is high, sugar is high. It's just that it's not high to a certain extent to be called diabetes, but it's high to an extent that is not normal. And
it's
that is called
alarming.
pre-diabetes, yes.
Okay. So, can someone who is not overweight still develop type 2 diabetes?
Yes. Yes, somebody that is not overweight can develop diabetes. Why? Because we have modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. So one of the non-modifiable risk factors is genetics. It's in the family, it's in the family. You cannot change it. You can't change it, it's in the family. And then there are other things that can cause diabetes, like medications. Some medications for some diseases. Sometimes some patients need to be on steroids and all. They can that can increase the blood sugar level. So you can see somebody that is not obese or fat having diabetes. And then sometimes too, it bothers down to which type of diabetes are we even talking about? Is it type 1 or type 2? So there's a certain age you see diabetes, you will go and do another test to confirm if it's type 1 or type 2. You will not just assume it's type 2 because type 2 is the most common one that is seen everywhere. But there's still type 1. Unfortunately, type 1 affects the younger people.
Okay. So, let's talk about food. What dietary changes have the biggest impact on blood sugar control?
Okay, so first of all, we have principles of food rather than classes of food. We have principles guiding dietary choices for diabetes. And one of the most commonly known principles is to avoid or reduce processed foods. And that one, even the layman that didn't go to school that has diabetes knows you shouldn't take soft drinks, you shouldn't take sodas, processed sugars, pastries, things that have sugar. That's one of the first principles when it comes to diet. Reduced processed and ultra processed foods. So, ultra processed foods are the biscuits, the noodles, those ones that you are very sure they've added other things such as sugar, butter, salt, those ones that are junk food. That's one of the basic principles in diabetes management to avoid those foods. So when you avoid those foods, what do you eat? You eat whole foods. You eat foods that are cooked by you as much as possible, grown, from the soil, fertile soil. So we have things like vegetables, ugu, okra, carrots, cucumber, those kinds of food, things that are grown. So I'm a lifestyle physician, and we have a kind of diet we emphasize called the whole food plant-based diets. So we even try to de-emphasize animal protein. It's not easy, it's not the easiest thing to tell somebody that they should stop eating animal protein. But we say reduce to the barest minimum, right? Reduce to the barest minimum. Then foods that are cooked by you rather than buying the foods outside. I know we have some situations where people cannot cook for themselves. They are rushing to work, or maybe a man that has lost his wife, he has to buy food from Mama Put and all that. So those are the factors that really affect the management of diabetes. So if you remove ultra processed foods, try to cook foods that are homegrown, natural. Reduce things like oil, all the types of oil. Even though diabetes is sugar that it's really affects, it also affects all the other classes of food. So we need to still reduce our oil, increase our protein. Protein intake has to go up as well. Of course, if the person doesn't have kidney problems. But in food, for me, the summary of food is whole food plant-based diet, whole foods. We are not emphasizing juices and smoothies. I'm sorry if it hurts anybody's business, but that's just the truth. We found out, studies have found out that these juices concentrate the sugar in them. If you eat the whole fruit, let me use watermelon for example. If you eat watermelon, you are taking in the fiber as well as the water, everything. But when they juice it, they remove the fiber, which is even the most important component of the food. They remove the fiber and they are concentrated the sugar. So sometimes it's almost the same thing as taking soft drink, these juices, because if you taste them, they are even sweet. When you taste all the pineapple and this, they've just concentrated the sugar. So it will make somebody that has a diabetes to make their sugar level not to even, respond to treatment. So we say whole foods. Whole foods include fruits in their natural forms. Some fruits are too sweet. So those fruits like pineapple and the rest, we don't encourage, patients that have diabetes to eat them, except once in a while. Then eba, things like gari, swallow and all. There are some healthier options like oatmeal and so on, but the oatmeal can be expensive for some people. So we can even still tell them to still eat the gari, but let it not be more than a fist size, and then fill up with plenty soup. Let the soup be very, very reduced oil. Let it have very reduced oil and a lot of vegetables. So we are blessed with different kinds of vegetables. Like I know the vegetables we have down south maybe it's different from the ones you have in Lagos and so on. Maybe you have abundance of things like F4 and the rest. So very, yes, very good. All green leafy vegetables are very, very good and recommended, highly recommended for patients with diabetes. And then when you're talking of reversal, those are the kind of things you look out for. For reversal, there is a treatment protocol for diabetes reversal. So it's different from the general one we are saying. There is a protocol which anybody that wants to know will pay through TeleDoc to consult with me to know about the protocol for diabetes reversal. But just know that there's something like that, and then it's a different protocol. I know a lot of people are selling different things, unfortunately. People are selling different herbal drinks. If you go to the parks, you see them saying things like, take this one, you know, your diabetes will go. All those things, they are not, people say if those things really work, they will put it in pill form. Big pharmaceutical companies will put it in pill form and sell it to the public. If it really works. I've seen situations where people told me they are taking Otazi, this, that. Okay, you really, let's check your blood sugar. It will be high. So those things are not working. We have natural things that will work, but you must follow somebody that knows it. Somebody like me now that I want to do a diploma in lifestyle medicine. I know how to put you on a protocol for diabetes reversal, but not just anybody that is advertising and marketing different drinks and so on. So I know a lot of people like to hear diabetes reversal so that they will not drink medication and all that again. It can be reversed, but there's a criteria. Not everybody fits into the reversal criteria. Sometimes people can reduce their medication. If you follow the weight loss follow the diet and exercise. If you follow it, you can really reduce your sugar level. Some people are even on no drug again, which is what we call remission. They are no drug again because they have done very well. But we tell them they need to still be checking because things like stress can increase your risk. So apart from food, we also have other pillars of lifestyle medicine that come into play when you're talking of diabetes reversal. The exercise is a must. Like I told you, diabetes is more now because we are very sedentary. We are sitting in one place all the time. We need to move around. For every 1 hour you sit, you should stand up and move at least 5 minutes in that 1 hour. Stand up, move around. Even if you don't have any reason to stand up, then of course you have to factor in exercise, not just moving. No. Exercise is the one that you do on purpose. So some people will tell me, "Oh, I stand at work throughout the day, this and that." That means you are physically active, but that's not exercise. So exercise is the one you plan to do when you talk about things like strength training, lifting of weights, squats. In fact, studies have shown that the lower limb muscles from your thighs down are as effective as diabetic drugs in reversing sugar level. The more you keep you do squats, resistance training and more, the better your sugar level will be. So people may be thinking of diabetes reversal may also want to explore option of exercising and resistance training. Your sleep must be optimal. We're looking at least 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, at least, but it should be 7 to 9 hours. Then stress, you need to know how to manage stress. Because if you're doing everything right and you're stressed, your sugar level will still be high and you cannot achieve diabetes reversal or remission. And then alcohol and smoking. Two terrible, terrible, terrible combinations for somebody that has diabetes. Anybody that has diabetes should ideally stop taking alcohol because alcohol worsens the outcome, it worsens the sugar level, it worsens everything. So alcohol and of course smoking. Smoking by itself is an independent risk factor for mortality, meaning somebody that does everything right but smokes can still die from heart disease. So all the dots, all the lines will connect together for diabetes reversal. It's not only about the food, or it's not only about one thing or the other. Everything will come together so we can talk about diabetes reversal or remission.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. You've exhausted the topic. Thank you very much. Just one question before we move forward. You see many people, okay, two questions in one. You see many people say they are switching to diabetic food. Is that necessary? Or should they just do portion control? What role does portion control play in diabetes management?
Okay, so because we know that diabetes is a disease in which glucose, is the main factor. We need to reduce the quantity of glucose. That's why I said eba or swallow the size of your fist with plenty soup. That alone is portion control. So even rice, I know people talk about diabetic rice and brown rice.
And yam, plantains.
Yes, yes. So for rice, all types of rice, you still have to have this size, fist size, whether it's white rice, brown rice. We don't even emphasize the white rice because it can really spike the sugar level. So the more they can stay away from rice, the better. But we need to consider certain kinds of people. Like I mentioned, a widower, because I've seen it over and over again. Somebody that lost his wife that is diabetic, he's going to find it difficult, especially an elderly person. He's going to find it difficult. So will you tell the elderly man, don't eat rice again? No, instead you tell him to reduce the portion and add plenty vegetables to make himself, to fill him up. So you eat, this small size of rice, plenty vegetables. So that's where portion control comes in. So the word diabetic food, a lot of people are using it to sell books and sell courses and sell a lot of things, but it still boils down to these principles of knowing what to eat, when to eat. There's even something we call meal sequencing. How you eat also determines your blood sugar. If you have a plate of, say, rice and salads and chicken, you start eating the salad first. And I'm not talking of fast food salad that they add so much cream. The normal salad that maybe you slice some carrots and cabbage and ham. You start with those, you go to the protein. By the time you're eating the vegetables and the protein, you're even getting full. And then before you go to the carbs, that way your blood sugar will not spike as much as it would if you started with the rice first. You know, most times we tend to eat the rice first and eat the protein last. But I'm
Yes.
not saying that if you reverse the sequence in which you eat, it has a positive impact on your blood sugar and how it quickly rises.
Okay. The phone lines are now open. You can call us on 070917917 or 0800 or on 09155 You can send a text or WhatsApp message to 07031 or 08155 The time is 38 minutes past 10 this beautiful Thursday morning, and you're tuned into Women Radio WFM 91.7, listening to Radio Doctor. Today we are discussing lifestyle modifications for type 2 diabetes, treatment, and reversal. If you have questions about blood sugar control, weight loss, diet, exercise, medications, or diabetes prevention, now is the time to call in and speak with our guest doctor. Okay, so doctor, we have talked about exercise improving insulin sensitivity. So the question is, what type of exercise is most effective for diabetes? Is it walking, strength training, jogging, or something else?
Okay, so in exercise prescription, which is what you're talking about, it's not a one size fits all because you can have an elderly man with arthritis or an elderly woman with arthritis or with waist pain. So first of all, exercise prescription is individualized. It's tailored to the person's needs. So
Okay.
yes, so but there are general recommendations. Of course, WHO has told us we should do 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise in a week, putting it at 30 minutes a day, 5 times in a week. What does moderate intensity exercise mean? Things like brisk walking, walking fast such that you cannot sing. Do you understand? Walking fast such that you
Yes.
cannot sing. If you can sing, then you're doing mild intensity, you're not doing moderate. And then when you talk of vigorous, they now reduce that by half. If you can do 75 minutes per week of vigorous or 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity exercise, then you're good. And of course, 2 to 3 times a week of strength training. So what is vigorous? Vigorous is the one you can't even talk. So you're running. That's more like vigorous. You're running, you can't hold a conversation. That's vigorous. So the requirement of that one is 75 minutes a week, right? Yeah. Then strength training. So when we talk of strength training, we have upper and lower body strength training exercises. We have the squats, we have the planks, there are different exercises. So exercise in patients with diabetes is individualized. So that's why anybody listening to me now that wants to talk to me on TeleDoc app, we'll do a consultation and we'll take you into consideration because I've worked with different patients. I've worked with people that have waist pain. You cannot recommend the same exercise for somebody that has waist pain for somebody that does not have waist pain. So when it comes to exercise, there are broad general recommendations, but specifically is tailored to the individual, their age. You cannot tell a 90-year-old person to do the same exercise as a 40-year-old person. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, doctor. We've talked about sleep playing an important role in blood sugar control. when you mention stress level. So can poor sleep make diabetes worse even when someone is eating well? And coming back to the exercise, can someone improve their diabetes simply by walking consistently?
Okay, so yes, poor sleep can worsen diabetes. So even if you eat well, you exercise well, and you don't sleep well, your diabetes will still be poorly, or whoever the person is, diabetes will still be poorly controlled. So you have to sleep well. I know that there are a lot of people that have problems with sleeping, which is why you should talk to a sleep, specialist so that they can put you on a plan. It's not always about the medication for sleep. Those medications, after some time, you stop them. You're not going to be on medication forever. So people that have sleep, problem need to talk to a sleep specialist. Okay, and then you said, what was the other question about exercise?
I said, can someone improve their diabetes simply by
Just
walking consistently?
so there are a lot of factors that come into play, of which working consistently is not the only factor. So the answer to that question is
Oh,
no. You cannot improve your diabetes just by walking. In fact, what studies have shown is the strength training, lower body strength training is even more important than that walking. But we still encourage walking, because if you're not walking, then that means you are sitting down and being sedentary. So any exercise at all is better than no exercise. But simply by walking is not going to tick all the boxes for better blood glucose management.
okay. So, what practical stress management techniques would you recommend?
Okay, so first of all, stress is something that everybody goes through. Is how you, yes, Nigeria is stressful. Okay, so it's how you handle it now that matters. That's what makes the difference. So people have talked of things like relaxation techniques, deep breathing. Have you ever heard of deep breathing? Where you just stay by yourself,
Yes.
relax, breathe in for a few seconds, breathe out in a quiet environment, play music. Some people meditation during your quiet time. Maybe if you wake up, people that do prayer sessions and all, your own private time. Maybe some people listen to worship songs, just by yourself in your quiet time. Those are ways to relieve stress. Music, exercise is also a good stress reliever for people that can do exercise for that. There are some people that when they're undergoing stressful period in their life, they increase their exercise because it takes away that thing from their mind, that thing that is bothering them. I know somebody that went through a very bad marriage, and during that period, she intensified her exercise. In fact, so instead of allowing the bad marriage to weigh her down, she focused that energy on doing something meaningful for herself, which was exercise. So exercise is a good stress relaxant. Music, dancing. We must try to incorporate all these things in our daily living, because, like we all know, Nigeria is stressful, and I don't think there's even any country that is not stressful. So even if you relocate or whatever, yes, the life may be better and more attractive, but everybody somehow has to go through stressful periods, at one point or the other. Is how you handle the stress that makes the difference. So recently, I listened to one talk on sleep, and the only thing I got out from that talk was put your phone on silence to sleep. I have been doing it too, because I'm a very light sleeper. Just the sound of this WhatsApp message, just that sound alone can wake me up. And I don't want to be waking up, because if I'm waking up, that means my blood pressure will be high, and I will have problems. So I had to start learning how to put my phone on silence. Because what the person said is true. That thing they're calling you for at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., the problem will still be there in the morning. Yes, it will still be there, except maybe doctors that have to perform operation, or you're in the capacity to save life at that time. That is quite different. But if your life is not dependent on all those kind of emergencies, Is not a bad thing to consider, especially if you're a light sleeper. I know some people that, like my husband's phone can ring, sef, he will not wake up. So me and him, we are not the same. Him can sleep through all those sounds from phone and all. Me, the slightest spam, I've woken up. So everybody should know themselves and know how you can handle the stress. Of course, I know at some point, some people, maybe your family members are abroad. I know some couples that have relocated, that maybe the husband is in Canada, the wife and children are here, and it's only during our ninth time or our sleeping time that is the time he will have to talk. So for those ones, you have to make exception. You cannot say off your phone or whatever because your spouse is abroad, or so there is to every rule there's an exception, but we know that constantly, if you are not getting a good night rest, it will affect you negatively, both your mental health and your physical health.
Okay, I have a question, but based on what you're saying, it's a no-brainer. If someone's blood sugar improves significantly, can they stop their medications on their own? So obviously,
You know the answer now. They need guidance. So that's what I tell people, that blood pressure medications too, although it's a different scenario. But some people ask me that question, doctor, when my BP is normal, should I still take the medication? And the answer to that question, I usually tell them is, are you on a 24 hours BP monitor? So if you check now and it's normal, how do you know the next 5 minutes when you go out to quarrel with the keke driver on the road? How do you know it's still normal? So, but for blood sugar management, if you have who you're, of course, somebody that is trained, a medical personnel that is trained, that is guiding you, they can make that decision with you. But I noticed there's something I noticed. I noticed that some people they will tell them that their sugar is high, very high, and they on their own will start eating unripe plantain. They will start trying to do the lifestyle by themselves without taking drug. That is wrong. That is wrong. You need guidance. You need guidance because we talk about benefit and risk in medicine. If the benefit of taking the drug outweighs the risk, you take the drugs and start working on the lifestyle. And if the sugar reduces, you can reduce the drug. But for those people that on their own, they'll just decide, the doctor told me my sugar is high, but I don't want drug. I don't want to make drug master me. So that is wrong. You need to do these things with guidance. They need to guide you.
okay. We've talked about products. So, can diabetes come back after someone achieves remission?
Yes, you can come back.
You say yes.
Yes. You know why? If you achieve remission and you drop those good habits, it's just like weight regain. Somebody that was doing diet and exercise, you lost weight. Then because you lost weight, you stopped doing the diet and exercise, the weight will come back. That's how the diabetes too will come back. If you stop those habits, if you see somebody that has made it a lifestyle, very consistent, those ones, you see the sugar level will align, you know. Yes, I know a doctor that has managed her husband for 6 years without medication for diabetes. They have so kept to the rules and regulations that is now part of them. So he needs guidance as well because his wife is a doctor. His wife is checking his blood sugar, even when he may not want to check. His wife is there ensuring that he checks. So that's why I say the person needs guidance or a high level of motivation. Of course, the man must be very motivated as well because that motivation comes from you. Intrinsic motivation is you that would decide that I want to reverse my diabetes. It comes from you. That's why when I see people coming to tell me that my husband is too fat, I want him to lose weight, I will ask, is it you that wants your husband to lose weight, or does your husband want to lose weight? They are two different things. Because if it's you, The day you don't provide the food or something, the man will go and eat the one that he liked. So, so it must come from you first that you want to control your blood sugar. And these are the steps. I'll see a doctor, I'll see this, I'll do this ahead. You come from you, then it will go well.
Oh, the time is fast spent. We are out of time. So, finally, Doctor, what message would you like listeners to remember about treating and, in some cases, reversing type 2 diabetes?
Okay, so book me on Teledoc app. That's one of the things I would like them to I would like them to take home, and I'm sure they'll put my details on the social media platform so that we can take this conversation further. Then another thing is be guided. Don't go for any social media this thing you hear. You go and start doing it, or WhatsApp forwarded message. Drink this in the morning. Drink apple cider vinegar. Drink this one. You need to be sure. You need to go to somebody that knows it. Don't by yourself carry out this kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, but I'm sure the listeners understand what I'm saying. Do it with guidance. Don't do it by yourself. And if they've told you you have diabetes, take action. It's not a death sentence. I know it's very inconvenient and people don't want to even hear it. I know somebody that they told she had diabetes for 3 days. She didn't eat. She said, "No, I'm eating only protein. I'm eating." That's not the way. You need to do it guided. We have dietitians, we have medical people that are trained, to handle it. That is the way to go. Don't do it by yourself. I know there are a lot of attractive courses online. If you go to some platforms that they sell ebooks, you see different how to reverse diabetes. I used to buy them. Do you know the reason I buy them? I want to know what is inside so that it can guide me to cancel the next person. Yes, I buy
Yes.
those books. Yes, and they're not even usually expensive. I buy them, read the content, and know whether I'm going to dispel this one or promote this one. So me too, as a doctor, I read all those books. We are always learning every day. Information is changing.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. It has been a very wonderful section with you. But please, session, beg your pardon. Please, can you pronounce your name again for me?
Akpewe, Dr. Akpewe. I think that's fine. Forget the organ. The organ is good. We cannot
Yeah,
forget
I
this.
can pronounce Ogene.
Akpewe organ.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you for helping us understand how lifestyle changes can transform the lives of people, even with type 2 diabetes. Today's discussion reminds us that while there might not be a magic cure, healthy habits can have a powerful impact on blood sugar control, overall health, and quality of life today. Thank you for listening to Radio Doctor on Women Radio, WFM 91.7. Thanks to our producer, Aisha Sunny, and our executive producer, Tung Okewali Shonaya. My name is Hassan Metula. Do have a healthy day. Good morning.
Thank you.